baptism. For example, if the conference asks local church pastors to baptize at least 7 people a year, the pastors, they have to work hard to baptize at least 7 people a year, and then next year they need to pursue another 7 people to baptize them. So every year it is repeated, and while they are pursuing to take care of the new people to baptize, then the newly baptized people are left not cared by the pastor. Of course, there should be the church members to take care of them, but actually it doesn't happen in many churches. So can we have some kind of system that we take care of the people after the baptism, and even to reclaim the lost people?
The only solution that I can tell you are from the Bible and spirit prophecy, and we are coming to that. Okay? And what I can tell you, many people ask me, even during my years, 20 plus years ago, when I was teaching IS, many students ask me, why is it that goal setting has become part of the culture of the church? And today, different parts of the world say, why is General Conference giving pressure on us? I have been at the General Conference for 14 years now. I haven't heard a word about goal setting, putting pressure on the divisions and the unions to do that. So it's one of the Adventist myths that we must dispel. It is just not true that the pressure comes from the top. I have been in a division leadership for 11 years. I haven't heard in my hearing that the division setting goal for each union and conferences. Not one word. I was waiting for that because I heard the same complaint. Not one word. From the union level, I have been in the union for 5.5 years as a youth director. I did not hear one word in terms of goal setting. Maybe I was in the wrong union. But in my union, Southeast Asia Union, not one word. So where did it come from? Probably from the local mission or local conference area. Okay? And this is an administrative issue that we need to address. And the first thing we need to do is to send all our administrators to take this class and other classes in missiology. Because they need to open their minds. It's a systemic problem. These administrators, they mean well. They have been taught that way. You know what I mean? When they were young pastors, they were taught by their predecessors to set goals. So what else can they do? When they become administrative presidents of a mission or conference, they do the same thing. So it's not their fault. It's a systemic problem. It's a problem of the system. And then you ask the question, where does the problem come from? From seminary, of course. Students are trained in such a way. So who were the seminary professors? Of course, seminary professors were trained by their predecessors. And they could not get out of this mold of thinking that the baptism is most important. You see, so there is a vicious cycle, you know what I mean? So we need to train theology teachers, or rather we need to retrain them. They need to get a degree in missiology. If not a degree in missiology, in some professional refreshment courses. You know, that will do them a lot of good. So we cannot tackle piece by piece. It's a whole thing. So I wish somebody can write a paper on that. It's so exciting. How can we solve this problem? Not by piece, but by a system. How can we tackle the problem as a system? What can be done? Wow, it can be a dissertation. I would love to write that dissertation. Don't you think? you will do the church a favor. And this is not an exercise in futility. This is not an academic exercise. This is something that can be of great contribution to the church. We talk about it, but very little has been done. Okay, I think we will have more questions, but I think we need to go on. Okay, and I don't think 3 hours is enough, but 3 hours can serve as a process to whet your appetite. Okay, you need to read more. You need to discuss more to find solutions. And I'm glad the head of the ostrich is now out of the sand. It's no longer buried in the sand. It's no longer in denial. We have to face the reality. We cannot pretend we cannot see. We cannot remember, like the patient that went to see the quack doctor. We cannot continue that. We owe it to God to do an honest job. I tell my division and union executive secretaries, every quarter you send in figures, membership figures, baptismal figures, and we accept them. But the question is, are you sure those figures are accurate? That's the question. If your mission is 10,000 members, are you sure those 10,000 are in actual attendance, or are there numbers on the books? You see, that's the question. In other words, it is an integrity issue. Can you submit numbers to the World Church knowing that this is a false number? This is not an accurate number. Can you do that? We cannot, in good conscience, to cheat the church that say I have 10,000 members, in reality I have only 3,000. It just cannot be. And that raises another question. If I submit 3,000 members, how do I look as the president of the mission? I look embarrassed. I perceive myself as a failure. Ooh, 10,000 to 3,000 is unthinkable. Cannot be. That's the reason why individuals complain to me that I want to do church membership audit, but my president says no, nothing doing, not on my watch, not over my dead body. That's the instruction. It's a serious issue that we are talking about. So we have administration as an obstacle to church growth. This is unthinkable, but that's a reality. So what we are trying to do is to expose all the reality so that you know, not to find fault with the church, because nobody is at fault, is part of the system, but we need to find solution. That's our job. Okay, can we move on now? Next missiological black hole is the Adventist reward system. This is a big one. Okay, the story is told of a farmer that went to the market with his chicken. He and his son pedaled the bicycle with a basket of chicken at the back of the bicycle. So they went to the market to sell chicken, and by noon, the father told the son, you go back home now with the rest of the chicken unsold, and I will follow through. I have a business transaction to make. You go home first, and I will go home later. So the son pedaled the bicycle with some chicken at the back of the bicycle, and he went home. Along the way, he stumbled on the rock, and the bicycle fell over. And of course, the basket of chickens fell over as well, and the chicken went all over the place. So he was panicky. So he went around looking for those chicken into all the neighborhoods to find chicken. Finally, he found them all, and he put them into the baskets. And father returned an hour later, and he said, son, how was the chicken? He said, father, I'm sorry to tell you, I fell. The bicycle fell, and the basket of chickens also fell. They all went away, but I managed to catch them all. How many chicken do you have in the basket? Oh, I have 13. Oh, he said, well done. I gave you only 6 and you came back with 13. You have done a good job, my son. So, what does that tell us? We love numbers. We love numbers. The more, the merrier. And that's part of the problem. There's nothing wrong with numbers. We know from Luke chapter 15. Jesus mentioned about numbers, the number being lost. And so the numbers game. It is competitive, it is addictive, because why? Numbers accord status. When you have numbers, your status increases. And so this is the Adventist soteriology. And then in the church, justification is by grace. In the classroom, justification is by works. Students came to me and they said, sir, you have given me a B grade, but I deserve an A. Well, I said, why do you deserve an A? Well, because I did not do well in the final examination. I knew the answer, but because of my poor English, I could not express myself. I deserve an A, sir. I said, you certainly are correct. You know, I cannot second guess your motive. You know, but the problem is, I cannot read your mind. I can only read what is written on the paper. So it's justification by works. But in administration, justification is by what? By numbers, unfortunately. So growing number means greater recognition, more tangible rewards, and greater opportunities for promotion. This is a reality. Not always true, but there are indications to such. If a pastor nurtures and equips the newly baptized, he has no way to report that. Fortunately, in recent years, I see that in workers' report, in monthly workers' report, they have added a new column on nurture, okay, training, and this is wonderful. This has been a change. Since disciple making is not generally reportable, there is little incentive to disciple new believers. A pastor in his multiplicity of pressing duties finds it easy other than making disciples. Please unmute yourself. I have the capacity of unmuting everyone actually, but it will take me some time to navigate, which I don't want to take time to do that. But I can see some noises filtering through. Those of you who have not muted yourself, please do now. Thank you. It's much better now. Okay, so we play numbers game. The more, the merrier. I have pastors who told me that the treasurer of the mission told him, my dear pastor, the raise of your salary next year rests on the tip of my ball pen. And the tip of my ball pen is dictated by the baptismal figures that you submit to the mission. That's it. These are students who told me that. They were, in other words, they were under pressure to produce numbers, whether it's real or fictitious. That's exactly what they told me. I was not the administrators. They were willing to tell me what's happening in the field. I learned a lot from them. And so we have to sympathize with our local church pastors. They are under tremendous pressure. Okay, you need to read the book called The 7 Signs of Ethical Collapse, written by Marian Jennings. Okay, this is she surveyed number of corporations who have collapsed, and she wanted to find out why they collapsed. And there were 7 signs, 7 commonality among these corporations that failed. And one of them is the numbers game. She said all companies experience pressure to maintain solid performance. The tension between ethics and the bottom line will always be present. Indeed, such pressure motivates us and keeps us working and thriving. So there's nothing wrong with setting goals. There's nothing wrong with that. We have to maintain solid performance. Can someone remind me later on? I might forget. What do you do with workers that cannot perform? Oh, sorry, that's another side of the spectrum. On one side are the workers who have been pressurized to produce numbers. On the other hand, are pastors who cannot produce, pastors who are not productive. What do you do with them? And so no wonder administrators have come up with this scheme that you have to fulfill certain quota. You have to fulfill certain goal in order to be accepted. So Dr. Jennings continues, but in this first sign of culture at risk for ethical collapse, there is not just a focus on numbers and results, but an unreasonable and unrealistic obsession with meeting quantitative goals. Did you see that? Unreasonable. Pastor Byung told us a moment ago, 7 people you must baptize. Maybe that's reasonable, maybe that's unreasonable, depending on your local context, right? In South America, 7 is nothing. They win by the hundreds every year. In Europe, 7 is something. In Japan, 1 is something. 1 or 2 is something. In difficult area. So it depends on your context. But she says, unreasonable expectation to maintain numbers or to produce numbers is one of the cultural signs leading to collapse, ethical collapse. Because you are under the compulsion to produce numbers, even though the numbers are not there. Wow, this is a revelation to me when I read that. Who are guilty? She was present in one of our meetings, I think in GCAS meeting. She was the resource speaker for that meeting some years ago. So I read her book and I wanted to ask her. I said, Dr. Jennings, can you tell me, I'm a fan of your book, and can you tell me, we are Seventh-day Adventist Church. You are speaking to a Seventh-day Adventist organizations. Who are guilty? We are non-profit organization. Are we just as guilty as those companies who are for-profit? He said, yes. No question about it. You are all in the same boat, whether for-profit or non-profit, all in the same boat. She mentioned about universities that have to do accreditation. They cheat in accreditation. Why? They have to maintain numbers in order to gain accreditation or in order to maintain accreditation. So they have to cheat. They have to produce numbers to satisfy the accreditation team. So she said, nobody is exempted from this temptation to manipulate numbers. So the subtle message to employees is, meet your numbers or you are out of job or out of favor. You know, in our church, if you don't have the numbers, you are out of favor. You are not regarded highly. Not just, she said, she continues, not just pressure to meet numbers, but pressure so great that made up numbers. Wow. So in finance, we have creative accounting. In education, we are manipulating numbers to achieve ranking or ratings. We are all subject to that temptation, and this is part of the ethical collapse. One manager was told to meet the numbers, but not to do anything stupid. The manager concluded, I would be stupid not to make the numbers. In other words, if you are intelligent, if you are of the sound mind, you will maintain number or made up numbers to maintain your job or to maintain your status in the company. And she says, obsession with numbers impairs judgment and robs dignity. Wow, this is big. When you're so obsessed with numbers, your judgment will no longer be correct. And you are no longer as an respected leader. The drive for numbers can take us right to the slippery slope into ethical collapse. That's an indictment. She was not talking about church. I don't see any example in her book about any Christian denomination or any church of any kind. Just companies and some non-profit organizations such as universities. And so, there was one conference president told me, I tell you, I'm the president of the conference during my teaching years in IS. You know, every once in a while, I will visit my pastors. He lives in a mountainous area. And every time I went visiting my pastors, I would drive a different vehicle. And this particular day, I went to visit my pastor. I went there with my truck. I knocked on the front door, there was no answer. I knocked at the back door, no answer. And when I knocked at the back door, I saw, man, this pastor had a garden full of produce. In fact, it was not a garden, it was a farm. It was a farm. It was a sideline. Oh, I wish I have time to talk to you about sideline. Pastoral sideline is a major issue facing the church. Pastors selling cars, buying cars. Where in the world they find time to do mission and evangelism? Where? That then brings up another issue, and that is, are these people who are called by God? Nobody should be in the ministry unless he has been called by God. Ministry is not for everyone. It is not an employing organization. The Apostle Paul, when he wrote to the churches in the New Testament, whether it's Corinth or on Rome or in Ephesus, he always starts with the words, Paul, an apostle, called by God. That was his credential. The calling of God, called to be an apostle, called to minister to the Gentiles. That was his credential. Unfortunately, not all our pastors have that credential. Could it be that there are individuals in our church who are there because of the rice bowl? Whether you work or you don't work, the check still comes. This is an issue of the church. Unproductive workers. No wonder if you are the conference president, I don't know where there are conference presidents here, you look at some of your pastors, there is no life. There's no life. Even conference administrators, there's no life. There's no passion. Ezekiel said, there is fire in my bone. Wow, this is call of God. There is fire. I cannot keep quiet. I must do the work of God. Is there fire in our bones? Only people who are called by God have fire in the bones. Now I've forgotten where we are going.
You were talking about the book and the signs of ethical collapse.
Yeah.
Before.
Thank you.
Conference president.
Thank you. Our president, yeah. I must finish the story. Oh, the farm that got me sidetracked. Instead of a garden, it was a farm. He sold vegetable and crops as business. Instead of doing pastoral work and so on and so forth. And so he could not find them. Find the pastor. His wife was not there. Finally, he found the pastor in the cemetery. The reason why the conference president was suspicious of this pastor was that year he became the pastor that got the highest baptism in the system of that conference. If you got the highest baptismal figure for that year, you got a prize. First 3 candidates got a prize, something like a sack of rice or some reward of some kind, or a printer, and so on. So the president told me in class that I was suspicious of that pastor because that pastor for years has been an average pastor. How come all of a sudden he got the highest baptismal figure in the conference? So I wanted to find out for myself what's going on. So I went to his house. Even it took me an hour or so to reach his house. He could not be found, and he was found finally in the cemetery. And so he told me probably he was at his cemetery copying down the names on the tombstones to make up the baptismal figures. It's so sad. It's so sad. People resort to producing numbers when they are pressured to produce numbers. And this leads to ethical collapse. There's no question about it. So the numbers game is not about numbers. It is about people, souls that have been lost twice. First of all, they've been baptized. They have been found. Having been found, they are lost again. So they are lost twice. Precious people, not just numbers. Okay? The last one is baptism as an end product. This is a big one. We love baptism. In a lot of our journals, whether it's union, conference, division, magazines, you see many pictures of baptism. This is taken from one division, and this is another one. U.S. team baptizes 330. This is about short-term mission. This is another one, baptized 5,000, and this is 172 baptized, and so on and so forth. Oh, I tell you, this picture makes me nervous. This is a picture of what? Mass baptism. I'm always afraid of mass baptism, because when I look at mass baptism, I cannot help but ask myself, where are these people, these newly baptized people, are going to be next Sabbath? Will they be found in church? Where is their membership record? If 1,000 are being baptized today, where is their membership? Is there a record of their membership? Probably they are not. Oh, it's very sad. Very sad. One time I was in one country, which I will not name. And there was an old gentleman who pulled me aside. He said, he asked me, "Are you from the General Conference?" I said, "Yes." He said, "I'm a retired pastor. And may I tell you something?" I said, "Sure." And because it's so secretive, he pulled me to a corner of a room where there was nobody. He wanted to tell me something secret. Wow, I was all ears. My attention was piqued. And he said, what's going on in thy mission? Since you're from General Conference, maybe you can do something about it. I said, what is wrong with your mission? Well, I just want to give you one story, okay? And you draw your own conclusion. I said, sure, tell me. He said, one Sabbath, I was a young pastor, and the mission president said, such a date, we're going to have a baptism for the district. See? So all the pastors from that district will bring our baptismal candidates to a river to be baptized. Okay? And after baptism is over, we are to report the number of baptism to the mission president. That's the process. And so on that designated Sabbath, we all went there. Okay? I drove my truck with my baptismal candidates, 6 or 7 of them. And then there were other vehicles. Some came with buses, some came with pickup trucks, and so on and so forth. And so we did our baptism. After the candidates had dried themselves, then the phone started ringing. It was from the mission president. I was called by the mission president. Pastor so-and-so, happy Sabbath. How many have you baptized us now? Oh, I said, 6 people. Thank you, sir. God bless you in your ministry. Okay. Then next to me, his phone rang. A pastor next to me. He had a van. And so, again, the same question from mission president. Pastor so-and-so, happy Sabbath, how are you? I said, fine. Pastor said, oh, I'm enthused today because of the baptism of my candidates. Those are the fruits of my labor. Praise the Lord, hallelujah. How many have you baptized? Well, I baptized 25 people. Thank you, sir. God bless you. And he said, I was surprised. I looked at that van. The most that van can squeeze into maybe 13 people, maybe 12 and 13 people. And I saw a miracle taking place right before our eyes. A van who can accommodate 13 people suddenly could accommodate 25 people. Wow. I said, man, what a story. He said, this is not accidental. This is habitual. This takes place again and again and again. Because there is no way of verifying. There's no baptismal certificate. There's nothing. Just by word of mouth, by phone. That's it. When there's pressure to produce numbers, we will produce numbers. By hook or by crook. And it is no wonder the last day church has been called the Laodicean church. So mass baptism makes me nervous. Okay, let's look at the Great Commission. Okay, we all know the Great Commission. All authority has been given to me in heaven and on earth. Go therefore and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Ghost, teaching them to observe all things I have commanded you. And lo, I am with you always, even at the end of the age. Okay? We have to analyze this Great Commission in terms of Greek grammar. There are 3 participles in this Great Commission. What are participles? Participles are helping verbs, such as walk. Walk is a verb, but walking is a participle. Okay? Swim. Swim is the verb, but swimming is a participle. Okay, there are 3 participles in the Great Commission. We shall come to them a little later. Then there is one imperative. What is the imperative?
Make disciples.
An imperative in the Greek grammar is a command. Many times the word is the gist of that sentence or the gist of that particular passage. Okay, and so according to Jesus, we have three participles in the Great Commission. Number one is peruothentes, that is going. What is the root word of peruothentes? Those of you who are Greek scholars, peruomai, of course, to go. Then next participle is baptizontes. What is the root word of baptizontes? Baptizo, of course. So baptizo is baptize. Baptizontes is baptizing. The last one is didascosontes. Didascontes. And the root word is none other than didasco, which is to teach. Didascontes is teaching. So these three are the helping word. And then there is one imperative. There is only one. Imperative is mathetu sate. The moment you look at sate, you know that the ending means what? The ending means it is an imperative. Sorry. Okay, my annotation doesn't seem to be. Okay, never mind. Okay, so let's go back to the Great Commission. There are three participles. Number one, if you can see my cursor, is to go. Is to go. Number two, baptizing. Okay. And the last one is teaching. Okay. In English, participles often have the ending of ing. Baptizing and teaching. But how come go doesn't have ing? Go, therefore, as it reads, appears to be like an imperative. But you check the Greek grammar, it is not imperative, it is a participle. And therefore, it cannot be regarded as a participle. It should always be regarded as cannot be regarded as imperative or participle. Now look at the imperative. That's make disciple. You can see my cursor. Actually, I prepare the annotation, but for some reason it does not work, or it doesn't want to work. It doesn't want to work. That's too bad. Okay, doesn't matter. Okay, so three participles: going, baptizing, and teaching. And then the imperative is make disciples. And so disciple making is the goal of the Great Commission. It is not baptism. It is not teaching. It is not going, but disciple making. And so what are the rest of the participles? There are three of them: going, baptizing, and teaching. Those are helping verbs. They are methodologies helping to accomplish the Great Commission. These three are methodologies, they are means to an end. The end is disciple making. So the means must not become an end itself. That's the point. So the end product of the Great Commission must be disciples and not necessarily baptism. So the Great Commission is not to baptize. It is baptized to make disciples. So if you quote me out of context and say Dr. Ng said Great Commission is not to baptize, and stop there, you have misquoted me. That's not what I say. What I say is Great Commission is not to baptize, it is baptized to make disciples. This is the danger of quoting someone out of context. So true or false? The Great Commission is not to baptize.
False.
This is a loaded question. because we have to emphasize the next portion, and that is to baptize in order to make disciples. So the goal of the Great Commission is not the goal. It is goal to make disciples. The goal of the Great Commission is not to baptize. It is baptize to make disciples. The goal of the Great Commission is not to teach. It is teach to make disciples. So is baptism important? Certainly. Most certainly. Without baptism, there is no disciple to make. We cannot get along without baptism. It is absolutely critical. We must baptize people in order to make disciples. Disciples are, baptisms are raw material for which we can formulate into disciples. Baptism is an indispensable part of the Great Commission. Is baptism sufficient? Not at all. Having baptism does not mean we have achieved the goals of the Great Commission. So our job is not over after baptism has taken place. Baptism is only the beginning of the journey. The next phase of the Great Commission is what? Teaching them to observe whatsoever I have commanded you. And so what is the process? When does the process end? When the new converts have thoroughly discipled, the Great Commission has been accomplished. So when we follow the imperative of the Great Commission, to follow through on that and accomplish it, we will have fulfilled the goal of the Great Commission. The Great Commission will have been accomplished. So there is a difference between process and event. When you conduct a baptismal service, it is an event. Isn't that right? This coming Sabbath, we're going to baptize 5 people. It's an event taking place in a matter of 15-20 minutes. The church will be gathered together to witness the baptism, and also it's an event. But making disciples, or disciple making, is a process. It will take months and even years to disciple individuals who have been baptized. So disciple making takes time, effort, and money. It's a process and not an event. Okay? This is the website of the Seventh-day Adventist Church, the mission statement of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. Okay? And some people said, well, we have been talking about the mission of the church, and what about the mission of the Seventh-day Adventist Church? Is it true that disciple making is part of our game? Yes, read for yourself. Make our mission. We make disciples of Jesus Christ, who live as His loving witnesses and proclaim to all people the everlasting gospel of the kingdom in preparation for the soon return. So, there is no.
We often say that people do 10 calls at a time. Invite 10 people in a row because you'll get.
Making disciple making as part of the mission statement of the church. I know I've given you a lot, right? And now loaded a lot of information, and we'll take a break now and come back for questions. Okay? I don't know whether you are with me. I look at the number, it's 138. And during the lecture, I hear people going out and coming in. So I hope all is well. Okay, let's take a walk, take a drink, and come back. Don't just sit there.
Tulugon ako. Tapang mga bayot.
Hello, Pastor Arnie.
Hello, how are you, my friend? How's Myanmar?
Yeah, I still locked down.
Yeah, same as Malaysia. Some part of Malaysia. Kuala Lumpur is locked down.
You look like the bad.
What's that? Arnold is here. Arnold. Oh, Arnold, how are you, Arnold?
Pastor Rene.
Hey, hello. My Sifu is here also.
Hello guys. Pastor Obara. Pastor
Yes,
Obara,
hello.
how many is your goal for baptism? Pastor Ron. How many young people have registered?
Oh,
Okay,
man.
I edited now. Five souls per worship